there was a study that said that specifically women who don't prioritize themselves and they have this type of personality will get arthritis later in life.
Everybody deserves the sympathy and empathy, but there has to be a point in your life where you just have to get these two arms, put it on your knees, and push yourself up.
What I often see with clients is they go from this place of never asking for help and then they go to the extreme and they're like, "Well, I don't care what anybody feels then. I'm going to ask for help." I'm like, "Okay, no, we need to find the balance."
I'm sorry, I love you, I need help. Those words are so difficult for people to articulate.
I've learned so much about parenting from social media, but the bad parts are really bad, especially for new moms. They'll see a celebrity or an influencer just gave birth and she's already out and about, and they're like, why am I not out and about? And so a lot of comparison comes from that.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. Today's episode was pretty intense. We talked about everything mother related, postpartum related. Who am I talking about? Who did I talk to? Her name is Gayane Aramyan. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She has her own practice. She works with mothers who have experienced postpartum depression. She loves everything involved in motherhood. Our conversations were around guilt. Our conversations were around postpartum depression. It was around change. She was a really interesting therapist to have on the show because she said some pretty meaningful coping mechanisms like having your own cup and what that relies and what it's about. It was interesting to hear her talk about where postpartum stems from. Why are we having a hard time saying no and asking for help mainly? It was interesting. She had a lot of research to back a lot of the things up that she's talking about. We talked about some books. She's definitely somebody that's going to be on again because I genuinely do want to dive in about depression and guilt and talk more intense about these topics. But I think you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation. One other important topic we delved into is why is it that mothers have a difficult time doing things for themselves? Why is it hard for us to take care of ourselves? Why do we always compare ourselves to influencers and so on? And why are we so neglectful of our physical appearance, of our health, and so on? So I think this is one of the episodes where you guys are going to definitely feel connected and hopefully find some tips to help the struggles that you're in as a mom. So stay tuned with this episode with Gayane Aramyan. Thank you. Gayane, hi.
Hi.
It's nice to have you on.
Thank you for
Thank you so
having
much.
me.
Of course. Thank you for joining us today. You guys, we're going to talk about everything postpartum related, mom
Mhm.
related, because I think that's where your specialty is, right? Can you
Yes.
kind of
Yeah.
share with us how you got into this postpartum? Because it's very
Yeah.
rare and unique, I think.
Yeah, so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been in the field since I was 18 years old. So it's been about 13 years.
My goodness.
I got started out as a anger management facilitator, working for my mentor Anita. And I kind of grew up under her wing. I just started there while I went to graduate school, graduate school. And I was doing that work, which was very interesting and also taught me a lot, I think. I was working with a lot of men, a lot of angry men.
My goodness. And
Yeah.
majority of it was men.
Yeah, I mean, not to generalize, but really that's what I saw in
Yeah.
my groups. And so kind of working with that population from a young age also taught me a lot. And then as I got married, I was very interested into like couples and relationships. So that was my passion. And I worked with a lot of young, as I transitioned from anger management to being licensed, I worked with a lot of women. And so I was like, okay, I think this is what I like. And so women and couples. And then when I became a mom, I was like, huh, okay, I think this is my calling. And it's because I struggled so much in the postpartum period. And so that struggle taught me that there was a lot that I didn't know about, even though I was in the field. I had never known anything about postpartum depression. I mean, I've heard it obviously and I've learned it in school, but
Mhm.
not to the extent of the intrusive thoughts I had and just the lack of support, the emotional lack of support. I mean, there was just so much. And so once I got through it, I worked with my own therapist to really process my own stuff. And then I got training in perinatal mental health. And from then on, I've been just working with moms. I still love working with couples, but motherhood has been my like absolute passion.
So basically, you've had postpartum. Were you
Yes.
diagnosed with postpartum depression? Is it
Um,
something?
I
I
mean,
mean, it's a
not
little
like
personal, but
yeah, no, I think that, with us being a therapist, it's not so much of like, okay, so you have postpartum depression.
mhm.
It's more of like my therapist and I were just working on the symptoms that were happening. Um, I'll mention this because this is something I tell my clients now to check for. But at 6 months after I stopped breastfeeding, I realized I got even more depressed. And that was strange because, like, I thought, finishing breastfeeding, it will be a new journey. And he was a little bit older and I was going to get back to work. And something was off. So I got my blood work done and I ended up having a hypothyroid.
Mm,
And so my thyroid was almost not functioning. And I think it was my therapist that said, "Go get your blood work checked."
mhm.
And when I went by my OBGYN, she was like, "What are you checking it for?" Kind of downplayed it. And I was like, "I don't feel okay. Like I should be a little bit better." And
Mhm.
she was like, "You're a new mom. It's normal." Calls me a week later saying, "Yeah, your thyroid's like almost not functioning."
Non-existent.
Yeah.
I have the same issue too.
Really? Was yours related to birth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, after my second,
Oh,
it just hit me like it was
yeah.
non-existent. I was
Yeah.
like so mentally, physically
Yeah.
exhausted,
Yeah.
sad,
Yeah.
anxious. I'm like, "What's going on?"
Mhm.
And then I'm like, "I need a blood work." And then,
Sure
surprise,
enough. Wow. But you
surprise.
know how many people don't know to get their blood checked?
No. I think it's really important for a professional to kind of also be educated in
Yeah.
this aspect because so many women are lacking.
Oh, yeah.
Like thyroid is so common now, whether it's
Yes.
hyper, hypo, it's literally like every other woman that I'm
Yes.
talking to has it. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
So that's a
It's like one of the
big
first things I
piece.
wanna rule out when I'm working with someone in
Good for
therapy
you.
is
Yes.
like, "Have you gotten your blood work checked?" I know there's no time, but can we make it happen? Sometimes I'm a little too pushy, but I really want that to be
Yes.
ruled out because it's a big part of how it impacts the
Especially
emotions.
women.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So you went through postpartum. Tell us a little bit about how was that healing journey for you?
Yeah.
Was that challenging?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a strong foundation of your relationship, support, like the physical support around, that was very important. And I don't know
Yeah.
if I didn't have that, if it would have been more difficult. I think once I was put on the thyroid medication and once I kind of did my own work through my own therapy, I definitely saw the light, of things
Good.
getting better, and I went back to work around 6 months. So I was a little bit crazy, and I studied for my board exam in those
While you
first
were
6
going
months.
through,
Yeah, yeah.
how was that?
Horrible. I don't recommend it. Either get it done before or do it after the first year or something.
My
Yeah,
goodness, you're so courageous,
thank you. I
powerful.
don't recommend it. No, no, no. I don't want that to be like
Was it a pressure? I'm sure, as you said.
honestly, it was my own clock. Like
Oh,
I finished my hours, right when I was on maternity leave, and it felt so good to, like, turn
yeah.
that in,
Yeah.
and then I was like, I wanna go back to work as a licensed therapist." Like, I just wanted
It was a
that.
goal.
It was a goal, but now looking back, I wish people supported me, and I'm sure even my therapist, I'm sure my husband were like, "Hey, take it easy, like, you don't have to do this now," but I don't think I heard them. And so, yeah, I don't want this to be like, "Oh my god, great job you." It's like, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do it all. I'm glad I did it, of course,
Yeah.
but I wish I was more easier
What
on
what
myself.
made you not be so easy on yourself? Is it
I don't know. The goal of just being licensed and, having that
yeah.
accomplishment, and I think looking back, I didn't want having a baby derail me from that, because we hear that so often, right? That it,
We do.
yeah. So I think that's a big thing. And I was like, nope, I'm gonna get it done, and I did. Y-
So as a postpartum therapist, oh, just a therapist in
Yeah,
general, not I know that you don't specifically, you
yeah,
can
yeah.
heal and talk
Hmm.
to anybody with all sorts of like,
Yes.
emotional dilemmas, but as a woman who's working with women who have postpartum,
Hmm.
have the postpartum rates increased significantly since, I don't know, the last 10 years?
I
What do
think
you think?
I think more people are becoming aware,
Yeah.
and more information is being, even though no one is getting these like classes, that's my goal, is to get some sort of education
Yeah.
going when you're pregnant. I'm very passionate about that,
Absolutely. It's a
because I
huge
think,
shift.
yeah, I think like when you're pregnant, all you think about is sleep training, maybe breastfeeding or CPR classes, birthing classes. But there isn't
Yeah.
anything, there is, of course, there are courses, but like no one puts the importance on the emotional well being. Or like, here are some tools on how you can talk to your husband whenever you're in the thick of it. That would be nice.
What do you think women need to learn more? Pregnant women or women
Yeah.
who are thinking of having babies, what's an essential?
I think in any, just being a woman, this is a struggle, but I think especially in our culture, asking for help is such a
It's so simple, but
quality.
it's so hard, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Simple yet difficult to execute. Asking for
absolutely.
help is probably, I'm sorry, I love you, I need help. Those words are so difficult for
Yeah.
people to articulate.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about this? Why are women having such a difficult time articulating that they need help?
I think that especially if we look at our community and our culture, it goes back to us seeing our moms be these strong, like, woman who did it all, who hosted, who
Yes.
cooked, who raised us. They give us the world's attention. Like I always say, my mom's love and attention for me, like, it was everything. My dad too, but he was the provider. He wasn't home, and I never felt his absence because she gave so much. And so
Mm.
I think that kind of dedication, and she didn't work, so she took me to all the activities, she did all of that. And I think growing up and seeing that, it almost makes you understand that like the self doesn't matter. It's all about giving and making sure your family is provided for in the love, affection, cooking, cleaning, all those things. So then we have this new generation that's like seeing all these things probably online of like, ask for help. And you're like, how do I ask for help? My mom did it, so maybe I should do it. And then you add just outside of our culture, like the world we live in, and you see now women are working and now they have these goals and they're independent. So then you have a literally a storm of trying to do it all. You wanna be this, like, Armenian woman who cooks and cleans and hosts and does all the things and gives the love to her kids, but you also wanna have a career, and you want to be independent, and that's, I don't know, it's so much.
Forgive me for saying
Yeah.
this, but I don't think that those two are possible together.
No.
Um, I think that there needs to, we always throw out the word balance, and
Mhm.
I've heard so many people use find your balance, find your balance. I think that that balance puts a lot of unrealistic
Yes.
expectation on women, because when I'm genuinely listening to you talk about how you were studying for your, because it's not a job. Being a
Yeah.
therapist, it's a career. You were
Yeah.
talking about, working on your career while trying to be a mom,
Yeah.
and that it's hard, it's difficult. So I don't know. That's my opinion. Do you feel that moms can have a career and do a great job being a mom at the same time? What are your
As long
thoughts?
as the pressure isn't, "I have to do it all," then
Yes.
yes.
Can you
Like,
explain about that?
yeah, for me, like my personal philosophy is I don't want to be perfect. I don't want perfection. I'm
Exactly.
going to mess up,
Beautiful.
I'm going to maybe one day I'm not paying attention to my husband. Maybe the next day I am, and maybe the next day I go out with girlfriends and have someone else watch my son and I don't give him that attention. And then maybe one day I take off work and I'm not giving my work. Like, I can't every single day wear all the hats at all
Yes.
times.
That's hard. It
Yeah,
breaks you down.
totally.
Here's my thing though. I always look back because I was born in Armenia and I
Mhm.
was born during the Soviet times
Mm,
and, around 1994, 1995. Those were the difficult years where we
mhm.
didn't have light, we didn't have food, and, it was hard. But I was watching my mom and I'm like, wow, like this woman, she does everything and she leaves us at home, goes in line for like hours and hours for a piece of bread.
Yeah.
But within that time frame, women did have children. Why? And when when you do talk to those women, they
Mhm.
say things like, "What's a postpartum?
Yeah.
I never experienced this."
Yeah.
I'm serious,
Yeah.
right? Like, what you guys are just,
Yeah.
and they say this term like that
Mhm.
term, like, the kids here or the adults here, you guys are all victims, you're weak, your generation's weaker. We had the most, and it's
Yeah,
right, they had it worse than us. There's no
totally.
doubt about that. Why do you think that they're so much more resilient? I'm sure they had hormonal issues
Mhm.
there. I'm sure, in fact, I don't even think that they
Mhm.
had any help back in the
Mhm.
day.
Mhm.
I know my mom didn't. But why is it they don't experience postpartum depression, but the rates are incredibly high and we do? Because I
Yeah.
experienced it too.
Yeah.
What do you, there's a big gap there and I'm always processing that. What do you think is
How are these women doing now?
not so good?
Yeah.
Not so good.
Yeah.
They're sad, disheveled,
Right.
they've aged
Mhm.
tremendously.
Yeah. That's I think they've
Tremendously.
definitely felt it. I don't think they had the words to describe. I don't think they had the openness and the safety to express those feelings. So
Yeah.
I think it's always been there. I just don't think they could express it the way we can express it now. There
Yeah.
was no help. So you feel it. Even now, by the way, a lot of women, like even I experienced that. I remember very vividly the first few weeks I was holding my son, and then I got an intrusive thought. What if I drop him? And I like would picture dropping him, like, oh my God, that's so scary. Why am I having this thought? And I remember talking to my therapist about it, and she normalized it, gave me space to express it. And I learned that this is something that moms experience. And
Yes.
and I'm a therapist, like, I'm in the field,
Yes.
okay? So, imagine then. So, they all probably felt and thought, but they maybe
Yeah.
blocked it out. I think a lot of it is blocking it out, the trauma of it probably.
Does that come back to bite you?
Yeah, yeah,
It
that's why
does,
my
right?
question was, how are they doing now?
Yeah.
Because it's not processed, again, their whole lives they've spent on, taking care of everybody else, giving, giving, and giving, and how can you pour from an empty cup? And I wonder what it would have been like if someone said, "Hey, mom, what do you need? Like maybe you need something for yourself."
I think there's such a big shame factor that
Mhm.
goes into that. For some reason, it's women are so afraid to ask for help.
Yeah,
How can we normalize that?
by just doing,
Just
just asking. Like
risk. It's a risk.
it is
Whatever,
a risk.
I mean, nobody wants to get rejected.
Yes.
I think ultimately, I know for me,
Mhm.
first of all, I don't ask for help that much because I know I do a better execution at what I'm going
Yeah.
to do, whether it's like laundry,
Yeah. But
even though
that's the I'm not saying you're the problem, but that's everybody's
it
problem.
is.
It's the
It
thinking that
is.
I can do better, so it's fine. I'll figure it out.
Absolutely. And
And
you
then
continue
yeah.
doing it
Yep.
until
Yeah.
you hit that
Yeah.
stage where you're just like, ugh, mentally drained. I'm like,
Yeah.
I quit.
Yeah. So you delegate. You from little
Yeah.
things you get comfortable with especially for new moms, a lot of my clients deal with this of, if it's bedtime or bath time, well, I do a better job. My husband doesn't know how to. And this leads to the husband, the dad, feeling left out because they want to help. I mean, if you're in a healthy, good relationship with a partner who's present and they want to help, the mom says, "I got it. I'm gonna figure it out myself," and she unintentionally pushes him out, then he doesn't know how to fit in. Then he stops asking how you need
Can
help.
you guide the mother? First of all, beautifully said.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you saying that because I hear it so much that I do a better job. He
Yeah.
doesn't know. It's hard for him. He can't put the kids to sleep,
Yeah.
or he can't vacuum that well. What advice would you give moms that really do have a hard time giving that responsibility to maybe a mother in law, maybe a
Mhm.
mom, or a husband?
Just literally do it. Like, the more you get yourself comfortable with that discomfort, the more you'll be able to do it. It's that this initial discomfort that keeps you from even
Control.
trying, the control. And again, you have to ask yourself, what are you missing out on? Like, if help is available and your husband or your mother-in-law or anybody is there and saying, how can I help? Or you're maybe you have cleaners who come, but you're still cleaning up. Like, no. No.
You triggered me.
Yeah. But it's where does it
That's what
all
I
come
do.
from? You didn't just
Mom,
wake up.
my
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
It comes, it's monkey see, monkey do. Again, like
Yes.
mirror neurons. Like,
Totally. And I don't by the way, when I talk about parents, like, they did the best they could
yes, yes, they did.
with the information
Yes,
they
they
had.
did.
And God knows our kids are gonna say things in the future about us
Yes.
that we're gonna mess up on. That's part of life. But a lot of I think our generation has it pretty hard actually because we're in that middle of trying to break the generational cycle.
Do you think our generation has it harder than our parents?
You know, they had it hard in different ways, but the fact that we have our phones at the tip of our hands,
Yeah.
it's a blessing and a curse.
Mm-hmm.
The information that we're constantly exposed
Fed,
to,
yes.
I think to the mental state. Maybe that's why there was resilience there in some way, because they didn't have to be exposed to information that
True.
we have access to. Like something happens
True.
across the world, we know it in seconds. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't know it in seconds. We process it like
True.
instantaneously, and we don't process it. We get that wave of fear and anger and whatever, like all the feelings all at once. And when it comes to motherhood too, I think that information is also a very scary factor in how moms are dealing with things, and it increases, depression and anxiety. It's a factor, it's not the only reason, but when you have so many different ways to feed your baby, so many different ways to put your baby to sleep, it's a lot. Right. And so
Yeah.
moms get really anxious over that because then you ask the older generation, they're like, well, we just, we put you to sleep on your tummy. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, we can't do that anymore, mom.
Yeah.
So it's so different now.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of anxiety around being a mom nowadays. And you're right. There's a lot of information. You can't put them this way. You can't feed them this. This oil
Hmm.
does this. This formula does that.
Yeah.
You're just constantly researching and
Yeah.
researching, and it's difficult. You get so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of moms who genuinely they have like 2, 3 kids with no help and a
Hmm.
very absent father.
Hmm.
What do you think those moms can do? Because I've seen a few that are very overwhelmed and just tired, and also severe anger comes with that.
Yeah.
Just
Resentment.
resentment at the
Hmm.
world, friends, maybe family. Then they take all that anger out on their children.
Yeah.
If they don't have help,
Yeah.
what can they do for themselves? What do you think would be good coping mechanism for moms like that?
Well, of course, I'm biased, and the first thing I'm going to say is therapy if it's possible,
Yeah,
if you can fit it into your schedule in any
true.
way. And if you can't, I would start with journaling, possibly, like having some space for your feelings, your thoughts, to be able to write those out, and just sit with it and reflect on that. Having maybe a friend that can be supportive, finding a friend. Um, and really looking at your day and seeing how you can simplify it. Like, do you have a lot of pressure on yourself to be this, again, the perfect mom who's doing it all? Can you, cut back in some things and maybe focus on doing a 5 minute, I don't know if you're into meditation, or just 5 minutes to yourself,
Hmm.
in whatever way that looks like. I really think about editing, Like, that's the word that comes to mind, like, looking at your day and just editing what doesn't work and what works for you, and adding in something that might fulfill you. Maybe
Mhm.
you get out and go to the park with the kids. Um, that's what's coming to mind, is kind of like looking at what the current situation is like and what
Mhm.
you can do to shift some things.
What about accept? Do you feel like acceptance is key? Because when there are mothers who are faced with challenges
Mhm.
of having maybe two, three kids, no help, not a present dad, do you think that accepting that they're in a very, it's the lack of better, shitty, I would say,
Yeah.
but it's the lack of better word, situation, and do you feel like acceptance is important? Because sometimes I feel like other approaches might be a way of not really accepting what's happening and maybe running from what's really going on. But
Mhm.
I don't know, for me, I feel like the more I accept what's going on in that
Yeah.
moment helps me figure out a way better. All right, well, I've got two kids, I have no help,
Uh-huh.
it's really horrible, my house is a mess, I haven't brushed my teeth all day.
Yeah.
I'm just, it is what it is right now. Okay, what's the first thing I can do for myself?
Right.
What's the question I'm asking?
Yeah.
Is acceptance important when we're faced with difficult situations?
I think maybe editing, then acceptance, like
Yes.
doing what you can to shift some things.
Uh-huh.
And that maybe, if the relationship, the marriage you're in, like, is it serving you any good if there's absence? Is it
Mm-hmm.
like, I have so many questions. I can't just give you a
Yeah, that
blank
makes
answer,
sense.
So it's like evaluating what's changeable. And then, absolutely, I think accepting, like, I think I've used that even in my own life through motherhood. Of
Really?
before my son started school at 2, I just knew I wasn't in the phase of, like, going to the gym wasn't a priority. I couldn't, I didn't have the time. Just doing certain things for me wasn't going to happen during this
Mm.
time, and I knew, and I accepted that, and I said, "Okay, once he starts school, I'm gonna introduce these parts of, self-care," and I did. And so it helped get through that phase. So I think acceptance is a huge part, but I think we don't often look at the current situation and
Yeah,
evaluate what's serving a purpose, what's not.
that makes sense.
Can
Yeah.
I be okay with a mess, right? Because I think a lot of moms struggle with that and keeping things perfect.
Do you have a lot of moms that struggle with the mess?
Absolutely.
What advice do you give moms that are like, ugh, I just want a better, clean house, but I
Yeah,
can't?
listen, I am very organized. Like, the way
Yeah,
my anxiety shows up in my life, it's by keeping me organized on time. It serves a purpose.
it does. Yeah.
But if the actions are becoming harmful to me, meaning, like, if all I keep thinking about is the mess, like, first of all, my son is 3.5. Okay, if I put that box of Legos back in its place in 30 minutes, it'll be out again. But there are
Yeah.
moms who constantly put it back, put it in its place so it can be clean, and they struggle with that. And so I think when you get to, and then you're exhausted at the end of the
Of
day.
course.
So I've created some boundaries. Like, after I put him to sleep, my husband and I make dinner, we eat together, we watch a show, and I don't do, like, maybe I'll throw in a load of laundry. For me, housework doesn't happen during that time. Yes, I have a flexible schedule with work, and I can do that, while he's at school if it's not a work day. But I've created that life to be able to do things like that. So then when he goes to sleep, I'm not going to be staying up and cleaning up and doing all those things. Like, sure, clean up the kitchen. Um, so I think as long as it's not crossing the line of now you're exhausted because of it, of
And you don't have
course,
time to nurture your children
yes.
because of it?
Yeah. Tidy space, of course, that brings anybody, like, good feelings, and it's good for your mental health to have
Of
that.
course.
But if you're constantly chasing this, it's like you're in a hamster wheel. You have to prioritize, like, okay, this is what's going to get done today. And it's okay if I don't put this load of laundry
It's that
tonight.
okay piece.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you get and yes, yes, it's that okay piece. It's okay if
Hmm.
I don't do it now. It's okay if
Yes. Yes.
how do we get women to get to that okay stage? Like, help me understand that.
Yeah.
I want to genuinely understand how do you get women, I mean, I'm sure with practice it's not instant, right, you guys?
No.
I don't want people to feel like, oh my god, like it's,
Yeah.
but do you feel like it's the help of the therapist
Yeah.
that guides you there, or
Totally. I mean, that's something I work on with my clients of like letting go of these expectations. Like,
Mhm.
where are these expectations coming from in the first place? Oftentimes I'll get clients, I'll be like, I'll just ask, is it your husband? And they'll be like, no, he really doesn't even care. Like,
Mhm.
so where's this expectation? So we kind of look into where that even comes from. Oftentimes moms are putting that on themselves, and
Yeah.
they don't have to.
I think it's just from what I've kind of learned and seen, it's so much easier to clean what's around you because the
Yeah.
mess you have deep inside yourself
Yeah.
is so big and
Yep.
it's so unorganized and it's so intricate to kind of get a hold of that it's easier to put the cups away
Yeah.
and to organize your shoe closet
Yeah.
versus whatever is happening inside.
Totally. I mean, cleaning, excessive cleaning can be a sign of trauma too, right? Of
Yes.
past trauma because you're trying to clean up
The
literally what you
mess.
said. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that can, of course, be a symptom of that. But, you know, I'll also get clients who'll say, I can hire the help. I can have a nanny. I can have house cleaners who come often. Like, let's say, their husband, if he's the provider, he'll be like, I'll do it. Let's do it. He's on board. And they have a hard time accepting it.
Yeah.
Then what am I here for? Especially if they're not working outside of the house, they'll be like, then what's my purpose? I'm like, take the help. I'm
Wow.
always like, take the help, and
That's
we
so
explore.
interesting, though. It's
Yeah.
like the help women, you said something so powerful, though. Why do women associate purpose with chores?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a bigger issue of society and,
Wow.
going back to generations. I think lines are a little bit blurry now. It used to be clear before, right? Like the guy made the money, he was a provider, and the wife was home with the kids doing the house stuff.
Mhm.
Now, I think things are very blurry because also we have dads that want to participate in the
They do.
raising of their kids, which I love, and they
Yes.
even help out at home. And then you have moms now who work also. So a lot of things are kind of getting blurry, and I think that's a hard part for moms to understand that we live in just a very different world now. And it's okay to ask your
Mm.
husband to help out with laundry. It's okay to ask somebody else if you're going to hire someone. Like, it's okay to ask for help, and the sooner we accept that, I think the happier lives moms will have.
Do you get moms who compare themselves a lot to?
Yeah.
Is
Social
that,
media.
yes? Is that hurting
Mhm.
them?
Of course. Yeah. I think that, again, going back to like it's a blessing and a curse to have social media.
Hmm.
I've learned so much about parenting from social media, like I've been exposed to so many great, I mean, I met you on Instagram, like so much good comes from it.
Yes, it does.
But
Yes, it
the
does.
bad parts are really bad, and especially for new moms, they'll see a celebrity or an influencer just gave birth and she's already out and about, and they're like, "Why am I not out and about? Why can't I, be put together?" And so a lot of comparison comes from that.
Comparison comes from that, but I also think that women sometimes will utilize. Look, let's go back. This comment is not to make anybody
Mhm.
feel uncomfortable or bad. Everybody's responsible for their own actions.
Yeah.
Certainly I am. But I'll say something. I don't think that women do a very fair job portraying difficulty on social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you'll have an influencer who looks fabulous when she's shooting herself, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, I'm going to shoot this, reel or whatever, and she'll look wonderful and that's
Mhm.
beautiful. But I don't think that, and I'm going to include myself, I don't think that we are doing the right thing.
Yes.
We're not being fair. I think
Yeah.
that it's important to sometimes portray and execute and allow people to see that ugly side.
Yeah.
So I certainly have a big responsibility. don't by all means call myself
Yeah.
an influencer, but I do feel like I have a responsibility to share some struggles
Yeah.
also, not just a pretty, picture.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's fair? That do you feel that we're doing a pretty stinky job kind of portraying
Totally.
that other side, and these younger generations looking at
Yeah.
us and saying, well, it's kind of like the same thing as our moms did.
Mhm.
They're doing it, everything
Yeah.
is perfect, but now that they're older, you see all kinds of cancer creeping up, depression creeping
Yeah.
up. We're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
What makes a difference?
I mean, I have a few thoughts on this. One
Please.
is I absolutely agree, and I struggle myself to keep it real on my professional page and show the hard parts of motherhood. And the reality is, I'm not going to video my son having a tantrum, you know?
I do. Absolutely.
Or post it. I might
Yeah.
video, but I won't post that and expose him,
But that's
you
the
know?
that's where I come in with the why not? Because
Yeah.
4 other moms
Yeah.
just went through a nervous breakdown
Yeah.
probably, and they're gonna look at you and just, for example, be like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, Guyane she just posted something on her story saying,
Yeah.
'Man, this was hard.
Yeah.
I feel bad.'" It's
And that's
Schadenfreude.
the part I'll talk about it, oh my god, this morning, like, it was such a hard,
Yes.
it was so bad, but, I think what's helpful is to think that Instagram is a highlight reel. It's kind of what I compare it to, it's kind of like looking at a photo album.
Mhm.
When you look at a photo album, you're not seeing the hard parts of your
No,
story.
no.
They're just highlights.
They
And I
are,
kind
yeah.
of feel like that's what I mean, it started out as like a picture. You would only put
Mhm.
pictures, and
Post
that's what it
pictures.
is. And I think and then there's another part of when I have talked about the hardships, I do get a few people being like, "Oh, you're complaining about motherhood," and
You're ashamed. You're shamed for
yes,
it.
yes. So it's like as a creator in this space, as a professional, I mean, my goal is to normalize the hardships in motherhood.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's a constant struggle, but I think that we are not in charge of how other people feel.
Of course.
And so what we can all do as viewers is accept the fact that Instagram is not reality. And I'm seeing a thread that I need to hop onto of people posting that and saying Instagram is not real, and then they post like struggles they're having. It's like a new thing people are
But
doing.
that's beautiful
Yeah,
because to
totally.
some it is reality.
Yeah.
Like they're so into it
Yeah.
that I mean, let's be real. It's everyone's reality now.
Yeah.
What do you do when you wake up early
Yeah.
in the morning? You don't do a deep breath
But
and
we can
meditate or pray.
change
We can
that,
definitely
right?
change that. And it starts
Yeah.
from the space of not having your stuff together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just I think that I don't know, I feel like we need to do a better job
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
portraying that ugly side.
Yeah, and look, in my own work, as a therapist, I'm not a blank slate therapist. I'm very, especially with my mom's therapist, when it's appropriate, I share that I struggle. I'll be like,
Yes.
and it's interesting, most of my clients also have the same age kids, and so I have to really like do my own work and work on myself, so I'm not just talking about me the whole time. But
Yeah.
I'll say something like, "Oh, I get it. Yes," like let's say, they're going through a parent preference. I'll be like, "I get it. My son went through that. And, this is what it felt like."
That's
Or
beautiful, though. It's so
yeah, or
relatable.
the tantrums, and I'll check in with them. I'll be like, "You let me know if you like sharing when I share things," and they'll always say, "It makes me feel like you're human too."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it makes me feel like, "Oh, if you don't have it figured out, then it's okay for me to not have it figured out." I'm like, "Perfect.
When
That's
they
what I
use that
want."
term. If you're
Yeah.
struggling, then my goodness,
Yeah.
that's okay. And it's
Yeah,
like,
like,
what
and
have we come to?
yeah, yeah, but it's because struggle wasn't shown in the way it is now. I don't think we were raised to be comfortable with discomfort.
Yeah.
So we're very uncomfortable with discomfort now. And so I think changing that is a really hard job.
Yeah. To change that, you have to go back in time and change a lot of the generational gaps. I
Hmm.
mean,
Or to start being comfortable with discomfort now, like, going back to the question of how do we ask for help?
mhm.
It's asking the question and then sitting with the discomfort of you might be rejected.
God, what can we do? Well, no. Moms that feel like they're asking for help and they feel like a burden.
Yeah.
That comes up a lot. Like, oh, I feel bad for my mom.
Yeah.
I feel bad for my dad, or I feel bad for my mother-in-law. Like, how can we how can we normalize that? I guess what I'm talking about is maybe
The guilt.
guilt.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I was
that.
thinking. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
for the guilt. Like, how do you work on guilt
Yeah.
for all the moms that are kind of watching this
That's a
and are
big
like,
one.
Gayane, help
Mhm.
us with the guilt.
Look, one, normalizing that we all experience guilt. Okay.
I experience guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you experience guilt? You
Absolutely.
guys, yes,
Absolutely.
it's
I
normal.
have worked through therapy to be at a place where, and this is what the goal of working through it is, and I try to help my clients get to a place where
Yes.
you feel the guilt. Okay.
Yeah.
We can't delete it out of
No,
our system.
such an unnecessary
Yes.
feeling, but it is what it
It's
is.
but no, sometimes it's necessary. I think that's what makes us like empathic and, I
True,
think I would be
true,
concerned if we didn't feel guilt.
true.
Might be scary.
Yes,
So
true.
it's again, it's looking at the feeling as like that's a part of me. And it's
Yes.
about experiencing it and not letting it prevent me from doing what makes me happy. So, for example, you're asking for help. Maybe it's to go out with your husband. You
Mhm.
haven't been out in a while and you're asking a family member for help. And it's about, let's say the feeling comes up and you feel it and you go, okay, I'm feeling the guilt.
Yeah.
Let me ask, let's say my mom, if she's okay with watching and trusting that she's an adult who can say no if it doesn't work for her. Spoiler alert, most Armenian moms don't say no. They don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
But that's not our problem. Like they need to, and I always tell my mom and my mother-in-law, they never say no. And we're so blessed with that. But I can like see them be busy or they're tired. I'm like, I need you to just say no to me. I'll be okay. I'll figure it out. But if you can't, say no. And they're working through it, they're trying.
Mhm.
But it's like trusting that that's a grown adult who is able to say no if you know they can say no if it really doesn't work for them, and trusting that.
What about the women who are probably commenting in their mind right now?
Yeah.
Okay, well, she's right. Okay, she can say no, but what if my mom's not the type to say no?
Yeah, which is that's what I'm saying, like we all deal with
Right?
that, but it's
Like,
having communication. Like, hey
yeah.
mom, I know you get tired, I know sometimes you're busy, things come up, can you please try to work on saying no to me? I'll be okay, I'll figure it out. Like, have that communication.
Yeah.
So they also, because listen, they grew up not being able to say no. That's the generational trauma we're all trying to break. They grew up saying yes
Mm.
to everybody and doing everything for everybody else. So it's kind of like you're also healing them in the process of teaching them how to say no,
Yeah.
you know?
That's so meaningful, Gayane.
Yeah,
You're right. It is.
and I think
It
what
is.
happens, what I often see with clients is they go from this place of never asking for help and then they go to the extreme and they're like, "Well, I don't care what anybody feels then. I'm going to ask for help." I'm like, "Okay, no, we need to find the balance. You're still going to be considerate of the people around, but you're not going to let the guilt take the driver's seat and just take you off and not let you enjoy life and do things for yourself and take care of
Like,
yourself."
enjoy life with the guilt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it is. It's like a jewelry.
Yeah.
Like, just honestly, does that ever go away? I don't know. Probably to
Yeah.
people who are not that, mindful of others, but I know that I'm going to carry mine with me forever because I
Yeah.
always feel guilty asking for
Yeah.
help. So
Yeah.
it's like, what, you got to work around
But
it.
it's so freeing when you get to the other side. And if you
Is
have,
it?
yeah,
Are
and
you free from that?
yeah, I
Good for
feel
you.
it. I feel
I
it.
love that.
Listen, it's
Tell me how
there.
you did that. Teach
So
us how you do.
I feel
You
it,
guys are
but I'm
probably.
able to have these open conversations, let's say
Hmm.
with my husband, right? Like he's staying in so I can go out. Guilt says to me, "Oh, how can you go out? Let him go out. Like, let him enjoy. Why should you go out?" And it does all that talking. And then I notice it and I say, "Okay, guilt, I hear you. You're present. You're like making yourself known.
Acknowledge,
Acknowledge the
like, give it.
feeling." And then maybe I'll check in with him. "Hey, babe, I'm going to go out tonight. Does that still work with your schedule?" And again, we've had communication, open communication for me to trust him that when he says he's available, he's not going to later bring it up and say, "Well, you did this and we have that trust." And if he's
Yeah.
not okay with it, he has to tell me, "No, it doesn't work with my schedule. I have work stuff. Can you actually schedule a different night?" Like you have to create that
Hmm.
communication line. And again, with family members, it's maybe a little bit harder, especially if they're older, and the generation before, it's different. But you just start saying, like, hey, mom, please let me know if it doesn't work for you. You are not
Hmm.
responsible for controlling and managing their discomfort or their feelings or their like ability to do something.
Hmm.
And I think the sooner you create the distance of my mom will tell me. And I'll just keep saying every other day, hey, mom, like, let me know if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
What comes up as I say that? Because you're like,
I'm processing
yeah,
so much because it's guilt is such a heavy topic.
yeah,
It's an icky topic because there's no way around it. It's
yeah,
like as a human being, as a mom, since
yeah,
we're on the mom topic, you can never get away from it. And I want to make this guilt conversation something that everybody
yeah,
connects to because this comes up so much.
totally.
Okay,
And talk about, sorry to interrupt you,
you're not
talk about
interrupting me.
what it keeps you away from doing.
Living.
Yeah.
A lot of the
Outside of your
times
mom
living.
hat, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I was a little girl first.
Yeah.
Then I was a teenager. And then I
Yeah.
was a woman way before I was someone's wife and then someone's mother. So I think sometimes we forget that, we were kids first too. We have a
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Um,
And to say also,
yes.
what are we teaching our kids?
The same thing we saw our
Like, do we
moms
want
do.
them to be in a relationship where they don't take care of themselves
No.
and they don't ask?
Especially having a daughter. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Absolutely not. There's this other piece too, though. I feel like when we do things for ourselves, we feel guilty. Like
Yeah.
going on an eyebrow appointment,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh, I don't want to get away from home. I feel
Mm-hmm.
badly. And then you have like this sick attachment to your kid when you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to see
Yeah.
them. And I think obviously a lot of women relate to this because you
Yeah.
guys all talk about it all the time. How is that the same guilt? Is
Mm-hmm.
that something we
Yeah.
also need to kind of sit with and acknowledge? Like, okay, we're going to get our nails done. We're having a
Mm-hmm.
self-care day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we feel guilty for doing that because we clearly something's happening
Yeah.
inside where we feel like we don't need to do
We
that.
don't deserve it.
We don't deserve that.
Yeah.
Why do we have these feelings?
Going back to what did we see our moms do? Did we ever see them prioritize themselves first? I don't think.
I've never
Like my
heard a single person
memories, yeah, my memories are of my mom taking me to activities and
taking care of us,
taking
right?
care of us, like being a present mom in that
Wow.
way, but I don't remember her or telling me like, "Oh, I have to do this for myself." And so that's why we struggle is because it wasn't
Yeah.
modeled for us. And then
Yes.
add the societal piece of doing it all. And then you're like, okay, well, I can't do it all. So I'm just going to wear this mom hat forever and just do this, which is the most amazing, wonderful. I mean, God, unless you're in it, truly, I can't describe what motherhood is. It's the
Can
good
you imagine
feeling.
not having your
I
son,
cannot. I cannot. I can cry.
right?
I can probably go into straight tears right now if I talk too much about it because the joy, the love, it's you can't describe that.
Unconditional.
It truly is. But at the same time, at the same time,
Are you okay?
yeah. I mean, listen, it's the hardest job in the world.
Yeah.
So when I say you wear your mom hat and that's it, no, it's not that's it. It's like it's the hardest job in the world. But I think you matter too. Like I matter. And so in my personal life I try to make that clear to my son. He knows, like, he is my world. We say it to each other every morning,
You
like, you're my
do.
ashkar. Yeah, like all the things. And at the same time I'll tell him I'm going out to dinner with my friends. And he'll be like, your friends? You're going to a restaurant? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to a restaurant. And I'll see
That's
you in the
right.
morning. And the same with date night. If I go out with my husband, I'm starting to tell him I don't want to lie.
No.
I
No, no,
don't
no.
want to, like, he needs to know that
Yes, he
life
does.
exists outside of
Outside of
him.
mom. Yes.
Yeah, outside of mom, outside of him, like, we love you so much and we have this secure relationship, but also, and even for work, like right now, he was with my husband earlier. They came home and they went to a car wash and they did their thing. and I hadn't seen him all morning. So guilt said, "Oh, you weren't with him all morning and now you're going to this work thing." Again, I acknowledged it and I said, "I'll be with him after. I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my career that I'm so passionate about." And I hugged him. I said, "Mama's going." He said, "Why are you wearing those shoes to me?"
Why?
I
What's wrong?
don't know. It's a heel. He's
I love
like, "Yeah, and anytime I wear
Oh, because it's
makeup,
heels?
yeah, it's different." And he's like, "Why are you wearing those shoes? And what did you do with your face?" And I'm like, "I got dressed up. I'm going to work and I'm going to do something for me." Just so he sees that that's important.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
modeling that
I
behavior.
hope so. I hope so.
It doesn't matter if it's a boy.
Yeah.
Boys also
Yeah.
need to take care of
But
themselves.
also, so then he supports that in his partner, right? And his
Yes.
wife, and says, like, "I
Okay.
support you in that." And
Yes.
thankfully, I'm very blessed. My husband is very supportive and he is so okay with all of this. I think it's hard when you don't have that, when your partner is not on the same page.
Yeah, there's a lot of women struggling with that,
Yeah,
Gayane.
that's a hard part. And when even your family gives you a hard time, again, it's a privilege to be in a situation where you can ask for help and someone doesn't say no. Like, how lucky am I that that's my problem and that they don't use that against me? So there's a lot of toxic situations that unfortunately I think are either happening later in life. Maybe you married someone, didn't know that's what it's going to be like, and then that's what's happening. And again, I think it's really reevaluating like what's important to you and how much is the current situation
Yeah,
helping or hurting you, because a healthy relationship should be about that support. I really believe that.
I do too.
Yeah, especially as a mom, like you want to thrive even if you don't have a career, like to go get your nails done with a partner who says, "I got it, you go take care of you."
Absolutely.
Because as moms, what do? We sit home and we say, "We got this. You go take care of you." And the husband works all day. Let's say if that's the case.
It's just, teaching them to put themselves first, like how you see in an airplane. What do they
Yeah.
model that behavior where, the oxygen mask falls?
Yeah.
You don't put it on your kids first. Certainly, you're not going to make it
Yeah.
by the time you put that on your kids. You put it on yourself first.
Yeah.
And I believe in eating first. I believe in
Yeah.
drinking water first. Call me whatever you want to call me because of that. But I think that we're doing this horrible job labeling being a good mom is
Yeah.
about feeding them,
Yeah.
cleaning. I think that a great mom is a mom who takes care of themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think that a sick mom,
Mm-hmm.
I mean that I don't
Yeah.
think that a mentally sick, physically
Yeah.
sick mom is going to do a good job being a mom.
Yeah. And there's a lot of research. I don't
There
know if you've
is.
heard of Gabor Mate.
Yes,
His
I've
book,
read
Myth
his
of
book like
Normal.
10 times
Yeah,
already.
it's a very thick book. I'm still in the middle of
Oh my
it, but
God.
I've
You're
seen
going to get
him.
addicted and go back
Yeah.
to it all the time.
Yeah, I've seen him speak in person and
Hmm.
he's brilliant. And his whole
He is.
thing is that basically not taking care of yourself and trauma
Hmm.
and um, really not prioritizing yourself later leads to
Yes.
illnesses.
Yes, it does.
And it was interesting that there was a study that said that specifically women who don't prioritize themselves and
Hmm.
they have this type of personality
Hmm.
will get arthritis later in life.
That's right.
How many Armenian women do you know later in life that have it?
Majority of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Thyroid or thyroid kind of
Yeah.
can lead to
Yeah.
arthritis
Yeah.
because it attacks everything.
Yeah.
But absolutely,
Yeah.
all are hunched. They have
Yes.
severe bone pain
Yeah.
and just inflammation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, you guys, please, I genuinely want to have people, mothers, understand
Yeah.
that just by there's this term that's thrown around lately. It's called being selfish. I don't
Mm.
know if I like that
No,
term, not
I
so
don't like
much,
it.
but
Self-love.
yeah, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
prioritize. You were a little girl first. You were
Yeah.
a young woman first. You guys, you were that woman first before you
Mhm.
guys became moms and wives. So
Yeah. Fill your
how
cup.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
how can we help
Yeah.
mothers understand that taking care of themselves is being a good mom? It's
Yeah.
not the contrary of what this
Yeah.
image that we have. Oh, she always has her hair done.
Yeah.
She looks fabulous. she's probably
Yeah.
a bad
Neglecting her
mom,
kids.
neglecting her
Yeah.
kids. But it's like,
Yeah.
no, why can't she do both?
Yeah. I really think about like ask reflective questions of how does your certain like current situation, how does that impact you? How happy are you with how things are? If guilt is keeping you from doing things, is that serving you a purpose or is it
Mhm.
keeping you from having your cup be fuller? And this is especially when help can be available, like when
Mm.
there is help. And the other thing is try it. Try it and then tell me if it didn't work. Like,
Yes.
try to say, you know what? I'm going to get a hair appointment, or I'm going to go to that Pilates class, or I'm going to see that friend for lunch and just do it. Or, like, I bet guilt might actually make you feel bad about it. Yes.
Hmm.
But I bet you afterwards, you're going to be like, wow. And the weeks that my cup gets full, and recently I've been seeing a lot of friends I haven't seen, I can't tell you how fulfilled I feel. Like how just like my cup is so and I show up differently as a parent. I lose it too as a mom. I have moments where I'm not patient and it's always when my cup is empty.
Can you tell us about your cup theory,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I definitely I like saw it somewhere. so I,
No, but
but I use it a lot.
yes,
Yes.
it's helpful.
Yeah, so
Teach
I
us.
think of the cup being empty is whenever we're pouring out all day long. We're
Yes.
giving to our kids, we're giving to our career,
Wow.
to our
Okay.
husband. We're just pouring all day long. And when that cup is empty, personally, I'm on edge. I might not be as nice as I would like to be to my husband.
I'm hungry.
I'm hungry, yes. I am not as patient with my son as I'd like to be. I'm just not my best self.
Mm.
And when we do little things, and sometimes people say, well, I went on that vacation. And it's like, okay, that's once a year. That is not going to fill you up all the time. It might fill you up a little,
True.
but then you're going to come back and the same things are happening. So I always look at it as like, what can I do today? And then what can I do in the week that's going to fill me up? So can I schedule a dinner with a friend? Can I move my body some way, somehow? Can I, try to read every day? Like, what's going to fill me up? And can I listen to a podcast on the way? Like, that's going to fill me up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I can do daily that can kind of give to me instead of taking from me. I did a Q&A and someone asked if organizing is part of filling your cup. And I said, depends. If you're organizing all
That's
day
kind of a
long,
red
yeah,
zone a little bit
yeah,
because it can, yeah,
it can
do
deplete
the,
you.
yeah,
Again, going
yeah,
back
yeah,
to
yeah.
like, are you putting back that box every time it gets dropped, or are you
Mm-hmm.
letting it be? And then maybe the next day or at night you put it away. So it really depends. But it's refining, editing your daily life to include things for you. I think that's what filling cup is. And I'm telling you, like, obviously, I go through that where I'm like, okay. And the moment I realize I'm on edge with my son, that's usually a sign for me
That's your
that
warning sign.
that's my warning sign. I'm like, okay, I need to do something different. Then I
Yeah.
turn to my husband and I say, Thursday morning, can you take him to school? I need time in the morning. Because I'm realizing in the mornings I'm like on edge. I'm like, I can't do this Monday through Friday. I need help. So I'll ask him, like, what's a good morning for him to take him? And we'll rearrange that. And that morning is the best morning in the whole world. I'm like calm. I put makeup on for work. Like, it's so different.
I I like the makeup part that you
Yeah.
brought up. I wanted to tap into something quite interesting. This kind of, we swerve away a little bit about guilt, but lots of moms, and again, this goes back to some of the questions that I get on Instagram. How can we maintain a more healthier appearance?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just always, I relate, we're always on the go, go,
Yeah.
go, go, working or this and that. So lots of moms will say things like, oh, like I just feel like a slob all the time.
Yeah.
I see so and so, she puts on her makeup every morning, she looks fabulous. Or I'm out having coffee, I see this woman,
Yeah.
she's beautifully put together. I don't know. I think that's very important.
Mm-hmm.
There's these recent reels I've been watching. It's women going to the store in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
women going to the stores in America.
Yeah.
And it's like this woman, she's cooking. She's like, oh my goodness, I forgot olive oil and
Mhm.
in her pajamas
Yeah.
with her bun.
Yeah.
She'll just go to Trader Joe's and she'll grab olive oil and she'll come home. And then
Yeah.
it's a woman in France.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I forgot my olive oil. She'll go back to her room, brush her hair,
Yeah.
put some light mascara on, a little bit of
Yeah.
blush, beautiful outfit. She'll go to the store and
Yeah.
get her olive oil.
Yeah.
So we've lost touch with our
Yeah.
feminine side.
Yeah. Ugh, so many places I can go with that.
But it's
Yeah.
meaningful. I think that it's a topic that definitely I would
Yeah.
love to talk to you about if you're comfortable, of course,
Yeah.
because it's again, we blame everything on being a mom.
Yeah.
It's always I'm a mom. I'm a mom. It's like,
Yeah.
no, lady.
Yeah.
Yes, you're a mother, but
Mhm.
there's also a thing called being a girl and being a
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
Again, it's you putting everything else
Yeah. Totally.
first and
Totally.
going to the market with slob, and then you see somebody that looks better,
Yeah.
then you have this Schadenfreude feeling like,
Yeah.
ugh,
Yeah.
so-and-so looks fabulous.
Here's the thing. So I think life in America is different than life in France,
Very,
stress-wise,
very,
and
yes.
work ethic,
Expectations.
expectations.
Absolutely.
Like it's just different. Um, so I think there's something there that maybe they have the energy and the lifestyle to do that, possibly. The other part is, look, I myself had literally on my vision board a picture of makeup. This was, yeah.
Is this reality?
Yeah, yeah. Because I wanted to put more makeup on in the following year.
Yes.
As a mom. Because the first few years I just never had time for.
But why was that important for you?
To feel that feminine side and to feel
Yeah.
put together and all of that. But I want to be very careful about this conversation because I think that there's also a side of people that put too much importance in that and how you look and the presentation of it, that it gets kind of skewed. Like you should be okay with your own skin and being comfortable without makeup and
Of
having
course.
the confidence in that. And also prioritizing what's more important. So right now, I don't have time to put makeup on every morning, but I ask myself what's more important. Like, is it to get a shower in or to do my
Even that,
makeup?
yeah.
Is it to take a healthy lunch to work or is it to put makeup? And the mornings my husband takes him, like I can do all of it, which is great.
Yes.
I can also wake up 30 minutes early and do it. But again, I ask myself, is this morning, should I get that 30 minutes of sleep or is it better for me to wear makeup? Okay, my clients are virtual today. I feel like I can just focus on this instead. And instead of being, obviously, I'm still put together when I go to work. But
Yes.
do you know what I
I
mean?
do. I mean, again, I don't want women to think that we're talking about
Yeah.
full glam.
Yeah.
But going back to the comment of, Europe, look, it's not like women in Europe don't have stressful
Yeah,
lives.
and I'm definitely not saying
No,
that.
no, no, I
but
know,
yeah.
I know. I just think that it's mental health here.
Yeah.
I'm attacking that. I think it's
Yeah.
mental health here. And I think
Yeah.
that we're not, look, everybody deserves the sympathy and
Yeah.
empathy.
Yeah.
But there has to be a point in your life where you just have to get these two arms, put it
Yeah.
on your knees and push yourself
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
and sometimes you're not going to have that help. And
Mhm.
sometimes you're not going to be able to afford that therapist. But that doesn't mean that you can just rot and
Yeah.
be
yeah.
a danger. Because the most dangerous people are the weak people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because weak people are bitter.
Yeah.
They're just dangerous. There's nothing
Yeah.
good that comes from that. Even though you might have a lot of empathy for that person
Yeah.
that are struggling, they're still. That's why I always say, you guys work on your mental side. I think a lot of that lack of taking care of yourself is mental. It's mental
Yeah.
exhaustion.
Totally.
It's the lack of help. All of that.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to put like the importance on even just brushing your teeth. There's
Yeah.
there's moms who don't
Yeah.
even do that.
Yeah.
And they leave the house and say, oh my God, I forgot to brush my teeth. And it's like,
But I also want to normalize how hard it is. Like
it
I
is.
have
It could
my
be.
two best friends are just getting married and getting into this life that I've been in for a minute. And
Yeah.
and anytime I would share a struggle with them of like, oh, like I don't feel like putting makeup and to be like, why? Just do it. Like just, I'm like,
Just do it.
you just wait until you're in this
Yeah.
because I want to normalize like it, even though it's such a simple task, it's so hard to be like, you know what, let me do this. Or many mornings I start putting it on and my son's running around, tugging me, asking me for things, and I'm just like, "Why did I'm sweating now? Like, what was the point of this?"
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so it is hard, but I think I like a tool for me, a tool that works is asking those questions. How will I show up for myself today?
Yes.
How will I show up in my marriage? How will I show up as a mom?
If you put yourself together,
Yeah, like how
yes.
and what can I do? Like maybe showing
Yes.
up for me today is wearing makeup. Maybe showing up for myself today is getting a small movement of, I don't know, yoga, meditation,
Yes,
whatever.
absolutely.
So,
Something.
yeah, and I don't think that question is asked because
Yeah.
you can do things and like you probably have a partner who's willing to help or a family member. There's really a lot of people that are always willing to
I
help.
think they're willing to help, and sometimes they're not. It's because they are faced with criticism of they help and it's
Yeah.
not done the right way. You know,
Yes.
a lot of husbands are discouraged from
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Like, oh, you didn't do this right, or oh, this smells horrible. Why did you put this here? And it's
Yes.
like,
Then they back away, and
they
I see
back
this. I also see couples in my practice, and oftentimes I'll hear the guy say, "Well, I tried and I keep getting rejected, then I don't
yes,
wanna try
I
anymore."
bet.
Right? And so it's really letting
I
go of the
bet.
control that if someone is helping, lay out the guidelines, but also just let them do it. Everyone will be
Yeah.
fine. They'll figure it out. And that's another conversation to have with guilt is, like, it's okay to feel this and everything will be fine.
Absolutely. And that help piece, again, going back to
Yeah.
what you're saying, is that help piece will allow women to be more collected.
Yeah.
It'll allow you to brush your teeth, brush your hair, or whatever you want to do to make yourself feel good.
Yeah, and we're not striving for perfection. We're
Never.
striving for
It's
just
impossible.
a healthier, loving,
Yes.
happier life and not being
Yes.
miserable when we're older and regretting things. And because, and this is the thing going back to husbands, is one day your kids are going to potentially move out,
Hmm.
right? Whether college, for marriage,
Of
whatever.
course. Of
And then
course.
you're going to be stuck with that person. And it better be a good place that you
Oh,
are going to be in
yes.
because otherwise it's not going to be happiness.
Yes.
And I say that also with grace because it's very hard to put effort into your relationship, especially as a new mom. It gets rocked, right? Like I feel like my husband and I had a strong foundation going into giving birth. Like during pregnancy, it was the pandemic times, and we were home together, and it was great. And I was like, okay, we got this. We're gonna be perfect at this. And then the first few months, I remember it was like when he started going back to work that I realized like I'm on edge with him, I'm resentful.
Hmm.
He's not the one breastfeeding,
Hmm.
like he's not the one having these feelings, and his body didn't change. And it was so much resentment. And I had to really work through that. And I remember one night in the kitchen, we were standing, and I was like, whatever we're doing right now, we need to like reevaluate. Like we need to communicate about the how on edge we've been
Yes.
and come back to the place we were before. And it's constant effort with every stage, every phase. It's constant like, hey, what's happening here? Like let's reevaluate.
Yes. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's normal. Absolutely. I think women would love to actually hear that
Yeah.
your relationship does change, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
sometimes the change is too bad and you just have to work on getting it back to what it needs
Yeah.
to be, but the baby does stir up the relationship.
Yeah.
These little monsters just
Yeah. I mean, it
oh, of
makes you love your partner too, because you're like, "Oh my god, like, look how great they are with
course.
them, and they're helpful
Oh
and
my
present."
goodness.
But it's no matter how helpful and supportive your husband is, the mental load of a mom,
Yeah.
it's I mean, we're the ones carrying the baby, birthing the baby. There's so much there that no matter how amazing they are, they will never just understand that.
Do you think, not think, do you feel that mothers have lost touch with being mothers?
What do you mean by that?
I feel like nowadays, women are prioritizing careers more,
Mhm.
even when they are mothers,
Yeah.
right? And I'm seeing this a lot. Like they have children, but for some reason, their
Mhm.
careers are taking precedence over
Mm.
their family. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're seeing this, but I
Yeah.
certainly am. And children are being neglected.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's striving for that balance rather than being extreme in what you're choosing, right? Like wearing the mom hat all the time or being so involved in your career. And I mean, I'm not seeing that in my practice per se, but I see it more in the men when we talk about career of dads
Uh-huh.
not being present.
Oh, because they have to work
Yeah,
and things like that.
after work, and they're just always working and providing for the family and
Mm-hmm.
choosing career first. And of course that's happening with women nowadays too, but
Yes.
and then when you ask that person, they're doing it for their family and they're doing it to provide.
The reason why I say
Yeah.
that is because um, there's this pressure on women that meaning and purpose is
Mhm.
elsewhere.
Yeah,
And this is portrayed in social media, whether it's
totally.
TikTok or whatever. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not going to blame Instagram only because there's
Yeah.
other platforms, but there's this definite, pressure on women to have careers.
Mhm.
And these are women who already have, I mean, children already, but even to the ones that don't,
Mhm.
there's this pressure on younger women and women who have children that their purpose comes from
Yeah.
jobs.
Yeah.
And so,
And if you're not working, you're like shamed, like,
yeah,
oh, so
oh, you're a
you
stay-at-home
yeah,
mom.
yeah, yeah,
You're not meaningful.
yeah,
You don't have purpose in your
yeah.
life. Where I think the most important purpose
Mhm.
is raising a
Yeah,
child, like
yeah.
tomorrow's society.
My guess is people who say that are saying it from a place of guilt if they're judging the
Shame,
moms, yeah, the
guilt.
moms that stay at home because they don't get to have that. And so I think that's where, like, anytime we share a judgmental comment like that, especially out loud, it comes from a place of desiring that.
Hmm.
Right? And then the mom who stays at home might say like, "Oh, so when do you spend time with your kid?" And that's a judgmental comment. That's because they wish they could do something outside of the house. And then the mom who is working all the time will look at the mom who's at home and say like, "So you're home, what do you do all day? Like, what do you," right? So,
Hmm.
God, I just wish we stayed away from that judgment.
What advice would you give women to handle judgment like that?
Well, I think for stay-at-home moms, the hard part is,
Yes.
right, this pressure of like no purpose.
Even from husbands, what do
Yeah.
you do all day?
Yeah, I have the
You didn't do
hardest job in the
anything.
whole world, that's
But
what
they
yeah.
can't portray that. They
Mhm.
can't You can't have person understand that. So how can they work with comments like that?
You get confident within
Yes.
you that you are doing the best job in the world.
Confident in your character, you mean, like
Yeah.
with yourself?
Yeah, and then the comments won't impact you as much. It's kind of like, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but when I was breastfeeding and I switched to formula, and then we're
Ooh.
around people and they said like I was
Uh-huh.
holding the bottle and they're like, "Oh, you're breastfeeding?" And I was like, "No, it's formula." And they like made like a
This
judgment.
face.
Yeah. And I wasn't confident yet to handle that. So it really upset me and I was really hurt.
What
Yeah.
gave you the well, so I'm not cutting you off. I
Yeah,
just want
yeah,
to dive
yeah.
into this
Go
because
ahead.
this is something that women struggle with. When you say they threw a comment of, oh, you're formula feeding,
Yeah.
and at the time I didn't have that confidence. Well, what gave you the
Yeah.
confidence to reply? What would give women?
Therapy. I believe
Yes.
honestly,
No,
for
I
me, that's
always
what it
guide the
was.
question back to so you can
Honestly,
say
I have to thank my therapist who really
yes
helping me sit through with it. I
of how
can't give
important
you
it is.
yeah, I can't give you the magic
Yes.
answer of like do this and then you won't feel the guilt, you won't feel the negative
Yes.
feelings. I really had to do my own work to feel okay with the guilt, to feel okay with not breastfeeding, to feel okay with formula feeding. And after some time, when I gained my confidence, then I
Hmm.
was like, "Yeah, it's formula. It's actually this formula." And like, "Do you want the recommendation?"
Yeah.
The conversation changed. So
Yes.
it's not that the people changed what they're saying. I changed how I was
Yes.
feeling about it.
I agree
Yeah. So if
100%.
you're a stay-at-home mom, own it. It's the hardest job in the whole wide
Oh
world.
my
Like,
gosh.
you don't have
Praise
to
all the
prove.
women who stay.
Yeah.
There's this part in
Yeah.
Sex in the City
Yeah.
when they're drinking. I think who's the brunette and the redhead?
Miranda and
Miranda and
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
drinking it. I think they're in like Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And she's like, how do single mothers do it? And then
Yeah.
she's like, I have no effing idea, but let's cheers to them too.
Yeah.
It is so hard. And I really genuinely want to praise
Yeah.
every mother who's a stay
Yeah.
at home mom.
Yeah.
Our mothers too.
Yeah.
Every single mother out there in the world,
Yeah.
they deserve the world.
Absolutely. And you know, also to add to that, that you're still, you know how you're like you're still a little girl, you're still a you.
Yeah.
Outside, even if you're a stay-at-home mom, and then maybe it's not the career, maybe it's doing something for yourself in a different way. That doesn't mean that you just get swallowed into this motherhood
Yes. It's
hat.
not the
And
end.
no,
And it
you
certainly
there's
isn't the
other
beginning.
parts
So
you have to explore of yourself
absolutely you
and
do.
really like um water the plant, you know,
It's an
or I don't know.
ethical obligation.
Yeah, yeah,
You have that. You
yeah,
need to. We have to.
yeah,
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to say to add to that comment when you said therapist, uh, your therapist helped you build that
yeah.
confidence. Yes, sometimes it can be done with self educating yourself,
Mhm.
but also part of the reason why women we intake negative comments is again because of that confidence level.
Yeah.
So when you're confident, you don't view people's judgment
Mhm.
so negatively. It could just be something in the air. Like
Yeah.
it's just the comment in the air.
You don't personalize it.
You
Yeah.
don't personalize it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But when you're in that low state where you're not really confident and really
Mhm.
your character isn't built to where it needs to be, you're going to take every single
Mhm.
person's look,
Yeah.
stare, or like smirk.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you're going to come home and chew your husband's head off.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I deal with that even in every stage of parenthood. As I transition from one stage to another, I have to get comfortable in what I'm choosing to do. Like, you know, I might do, let's say I did sleep training and someone else didn't. Like, and there's judgment on that. And I had to get comfortable with like this is what works for my family. No
Yes.
judgment to anybody who does it differently.
Yes.
This is what works.
Works.
Or we did no screen time until 2. No judgment to anybody else, but I would get judgment, by the way. Like, "Oh, why
Because it,
not? Why not use a
oh,
screen?" Like, it's just so much easier, and I had to get comfortable with saying,
it
like,
is easier.
this is what
But this is
works."
what worked for you and
Yeah, and so
you
it's
want it.
interesting that even when you choose to do things differently and not go against what, like, around you people do, I don't have a judgment, but somehow that judgment and I have to work through it, and
Yes.
I really I think it shocks people when they hear that I have a therapist, and for me, I'm, like, so open about it. Sometimes I see her weekly, sometimes it's once every 2 weeks, once a month, depending how I'm doing.
They're the best.
Yeah, and I need that in motherhood.
Yes, you
I
do.
needed to figure it out to be able to help my clients better. If I don't work on it myself, I'm not going to be able to help. Again, going back to helping yourself before you can help others.
Always.
Yeah,
It is the most important thing in the
yeah.
world. And besides Gabor, I was watching this other Armenian, oh my God, what was his? Dr. Mirzabek, I think, so
Mhm,
smart, such a powerful man. And he constantly, in every YouTube video, he
mhm.
mentions a sick mother is not a good mother. And I
Mm,
don't mean by physically like
yeah,
illnesses or anything
yeah,
like that, but just a mother who's neglectful
yeah.
of themselves.
Emotionally, yeah,
Yes.
mentally, yeah.
So absolutely, I think we did a great job portraying that
Yeah,
guilt is okay, normalize it, work through it, and taking care of yourself is an
yeah,
absolute essential in a woman's life.
yeah. And just ask yourself, how can I show up for myself? You know,
Yes.
and I ask that on my Instagram. I ask every week.
Yeah.
But I also always put in there, I'm like, this isn't to increase comparison or to create these like no, it's to inspire. Can you view
Yes.
this and say like, "Ooh, okay, maybe all I need is 5 minutes to read. Maybe that's gonna fill me up today." Like, use
I
it as
love that cup
inspiration.
example. That's
Yeah,
genius, by the
yeah.
way.
Thank you.
It's very meaningful, and I think
Yeah,
a lot of people will take that today. A
yeah.
lot of women and
I
men
hope
too.
so.
Why not men?
Yeah,
They will take that because it's very powerful to
yeah.
constantly self reflect and ask yourself,
Listen,
can I?
I don't think we are the generation that is going to absolutely break this cycle. I think it's going to take a few more
But we
generations,
are
but we're
changing.
doing it.
We're
So
starting
have
that
that grace
change.
that like we have a
Yes.
huge weight on our
Responsible. We
shoulders
do.
and it's
We do.
hard.
It's very hard. Gayane, thank you so much for today.
Thank you for having me.
My gosh.
I feel like I can talk to you for hours.
It doesn't even feel like a podcast. I keep looking at my camera. You're such an easy person to
Thank you.
talk to. You're very poised and like graceful, and
Thank you.
you're very soft spoken. I'm sure your clients and future clients
Aw,
definitely are very lucky, because I mean, I'm just sitting and it's easily like conversational. Like I can open up to
thank
you.
you.
And I think that you're in the right place.
Thank you so
You're
much.
like, you therapist was
Thank you.
you
I
were
appreciate
born to
that.
do. It's your meaning, I'm sure.
Thank you.
You
I
feel
I
like it's,
truly, truly feel that
yeah,
way. And thank you for having this platform
of
and making
course.
it easy to talk about this. I think it's a very important
It's my
topic.
honor.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you guys for watching.